Hey, people, we are back. It's that time of the week. My hero was on break last week, and I am fresh off of a COVID booster. But don't worry about me and my feelings because I took a shit ton of pain medication before I did this, so I should be feeling hopefully not bad while I'm doing this. That would be the goal. So we're going to go over the chapter. My hero was on break last week, which is why there wasn't a new chapter. But we have a new one today. I keep hiccuping, bro. Jeez. And I even have... it sounds like a pretty interesting chapter from what we get. We once again get more backstory for... What's his name? Dabi and Toya Todoroki. An interesting thing here, though, is I don't think we have spoiler images this week. There may be, possibly. I don't see any pictures on the My Hero Discord, by the way. So that's interesting. So we're just going to go over what the synopsis says, which is also interesting. I would love to see these chapters or these leaks when the chapter hits, because some of these images I'm getting are interesting. So we begin the chapter. The chapter begins with the gorilla cop going into Dr. Garaki's cell, and this time I googled this because I don't remember who that is, and that is the real name of Dr. Ujiko, the doctor of All for One. I didn't know that, so that's good to know. It is now locked in the brain cabinet. Alright, I can now access it at will. Also, shout out to My Hero S tier anime for having the Gorilla Cop already. Alright, can we get a Gorilla Cop spin-off manga? I would love to hang out with the Gorilla Cop. The old man is talking to himself, saying that they have spent a long time looking for seeds to cultivate. Seeds that nurtured a hatred towards society and that could become receptacles for All for One. We see a page showing Dabi and Shoto and then cut to a flashback. So this entire chapter is going to be a very, very Dabi, Toya Todoroki heavy lore. We already know Toya's lore pretty much, to the point when he exposed Endeavor back when he put on the video. The Dabi dance chapter. But there's a bit of lore tidbits here that is a bit interesting, because from what it looks like, when Dabi joins the League of Villains in Season 2, that doesn't look like that was the first time he's encountered the League of Villains. It looks like he encountered them before that experience, even as a child. So we'll go ahead and see that. But Toya is burning on Mount Sokoto in despair, saying that he doesn't want to die and that he still needs to show Endeavor what he's capable of. Just as he is practically charred, a man in a suit and hat who appears to be All for One emerges from the flames. So this is what I'm assuming Dabi vanished, right before he vanished from the house or something like that. On the next page, Toya gets up from his bed in a mysterious facility, decorated with various childish decorations. As soon as he awakens, several children notice his presence and become excited, saying that the sleeper has finally woken up after 3 years. When he tries to say something, he notices that his voice is different. The children call the doctor, and we are introduced to a bizarre figure with a sunflower face. Toya asks him to let him out, and the doctor refuses, saying that from now on he will live there with his new family. So we have a lot of things to go here. Number one, All for One has manipulated Toya's life longer than you would expect. All for One looks like he's met Toya before. Toya is now in a mysterious facility, probably a league facility, I'm assuming, and he's with other children with a doctor who has a sunflower face. So we're already off to some interesting visuals here. Number one, this mofo slept for 3 years. We get a time skip, just nice 3-year time skip. Dude is schlumping, bro. I don't think I've ever met someone who slept for 3 years straight. So he must have been working on the grind, because that is a long time to sleep. Maybe they put him into a coma or something. I'm assuming when your body is borderline about to die and you've been burned as fuck, you probably are going to be healing for a while, if that's even possible. Obviously, in real life, you can't heal burns like that, but you know what I mean. Hopefully, you guys get what I mean. Toya cannot accept this because he has said many horrible things to his family, and his father must be worried about him. Just then, a voice comes out of a monitor and informs the boy that none of this will be possible because restoring his body was too difficult. The missing parts have been patched up using other people as a base, so he will no longer be able to use the full power of his flames. They would have liked to recruit him at the peak of his potential, but he turned out to be a failure. Hearing these words, he remembers what Endeavor used to say and despairs. So it sounds like the League of Villains recruited him to try to become a part of their society, part of their group, and unfortunately, it looks like he charred his body too much beyond repair, and they tried to give him skin grafts from other people. I'm assuming that's what the clips are. The clips of skin are not even his own. Or maybe, no. Maybe the parts of his skin that are not charred are his own. Or are other people's. That would make much more sense. And they couldn't repair it. So it is interesting. Dabi's washed. All right, this confirms Dabi is washed. All right, Dabi is not what he used to be. Peak Dabi could have been pretty lit. However, it seems really interesting to me that All For One just couldn't give Dabi a quirk to regenerate. I'm sure there's a reason for that. I'm sure there's a reason for why you can't just give Dabi a second quirk to either regenerate his body or something. Who knows, right? There's probably a reason. I'm not a fucking writer, so I don't know. But it's just interesting to know that his body is beyond repair and that he's washed. He's rusty. We have a lot more to go through, though. It says, however, the voice says they might be able to revert his body to its former state if he stays with them for a while and becomes part of the family. Toya then tells him to shut up and says that he doesn't want anyone to teach him anything. We see Garaki in the present time saying that it was already too late to convince him. Not even an all-controlling man like All For One could undo the impact Endeavor had caused on the boy's head. They were keeping several children as replacements in case something happened to Shigaraki, and Dabi was supposed to be one of them, but he burned down the facility and ran away. The Gorilla Cop is confused by the fact that this was an All For One plan, but the doctor says they should be careful because that boy survived in some way beyond their knowledge, since his body in that state shouldn't even last a month. So Dabi encountered the League of Villains way before, and this facility was supposed to fix him. However, from what Dr. Ujiko tells us, not even All For One could convince Dabi. Endeavor's abuse went so far into his head that he was beyond saving, and he burned down the facility and ran away. So this is presumably when Dabi went on his own. I'm curious if he killed everyone at the facility or just burned it down. And I'm also curious because Dr. Ujiko, he's a doctor. He's not an idiot. But he says his body shouldn't even last a month. So Dabi's been kicking it much longer than he's supposed to. I'm assuming you just, don't burn yourself to death and you'll be fine. But Dabi uses his quirk quite frequently, so I don't really know about that. Garaki says he was surprised when Giron brought Dabi to the League, and when Dabi went to get the High-End Nomu and the two were alone, he comments that he knows it was the doctor who saved him from death. The doctor is happy that he realized this and asks how he survived, but Dabi ignores him and says that by looking at the Nomu, he finally understood what they intended to do with him if he had agreed to stay there with the other children. Then the doctor says that he told him that he managed to avoid death through his flames of hatred and resentment. So this is one of the reasons why I think Dabi is such a fan favorite character in My Hero, because when Dabi joins the League, he joins because of Hero Killer Stain and Stain's overall motive. But when he gets the High-End Nomu, he mentions to Dr. Ujiko that he knows what would have happened to him had he stayed there. He would have probably been turned into a Nomu. And that the doctor compliments him, saying he managed to survive through his hatred and resentment. Dabi, I don't want to say Dabi's complex. You can, whether you think Dabi has layers or not to his character, I'll let you make that decision. But I think one of the reasons why Dabi is such a fan favorite character is because he went through all this abuse as a child, He was inspired by Hero Killer Stain, and although he probably holds resentment towards the League of Villains himself, he still uses the League as a way to push his own. Dabi has his own agenda, is what I mean to say. Dabi has his own personal agenda. All of his conflict and villainy is very personal. He's not like Twice. He's even not even like Shiggy. In a way where Dabi's probably wants to destroy the world the same way Shiggy wants to, but Dabi's conflict is much more personal. It hits much more emotionally than I'd say Shigaraki's motive would. And we got one more paragraph here, and then I'll go ahead and go over it. But he says, we cut back to the fight, and Dabi says that he has indeed gone back home. As his body was weaker, he had already given up meeting Endeavor's expectations, but he still hoped that the family environment had changed after these 3 years. But when he arrived at the house, he saw his funeral altar and the infernal training to which Endeavor subjected Shoto to. He realized that he was indeed a defective product, and his entire existence was already left in the past. Dabi says that as he exceeded his body's limits, his body started to become disfigured. He didn't want to meet Endeavor again weak like that, so he kept training his flames, and even though his skin burned, he felt no pain from the surgeries that were done on him. The more he saw Endeavor on TV, the more his hatred grew, and the more he took inspiration on his techniques. We see a flashback of him praying at the altar in the Todoroki household. He says that at that moment, Toya died, and in his place, Dabi was born. So this finally fills in the holes that we have in Dabi's lore, so to speak, where Dabi went back to his house multiple times, and even looked back on Endeavor, and knows about Shoto's upbringing. It's just interesting to me how Dabi has trained his flames despite his skin literally burning from it, but it looks like he no longer feels pain from his body completely going, and it looks like his sheer hatred and motivation has kept his body going ever since then. And honestly, this fills in the holes because right then and there Dabi was born. And then probably shortly after this was when Hero Killer stuff happened. And, we all know what happened after that. So this is the chapter. It looks like we're going to be getting a heavy Dabi and Todoroki fight coming soon. My hero is on break again next week. So you won't see me again for 2 weeks, at least on this channel. And I think this chapter, while it's not a lot of action, it gives us a lot of flashbacks and a lot of interesting things, knowing that All For One and the League of Villains were involved with Dabi even before he joined the League in Season 2. So that's very interesting. Hopefully you guys enjoy the lore here, and I will catch you guys in the next video in 2 weeks on this channel at least.